If you have a cat, you get it. There's this incredibly powerful, comforting, and let's be honest, sometimes totally baffling connection. They'll knock a glass right off your counter, scream for food at 4 a.m., and yet we are absolutely devoted to them. So in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers of that relationship and look at the amazing science behind why we're so attached to our little feline friends.
Okay, let's just dive right in. This is the big question, isn't it? What is it about these weirdly independent creatures that just completely captures our hearts? We bring them into our homes, we basically shape our lives around them, and that affection, it runs deep. Well, the answer, as it turns out, is this incredible mix of psychology, biology, and some surprisingly potent chemistry. And make no mistake, this isn't some tiny, niche obsession. In the United States alone, cats live in about 49 million households. That is a huge number of people who've decided that, yep, life is just better with a cat in it. This is way more than a trend. It's become a fundamental part of how millions of us build our families and find a little bit of happiness.
All right, so let's start at the top. With the most obvious reasons, we invite these furry overlords to come and rule our homes. What are those foundational benefits they bring into our lives every day?
On the face of it, it's pretty simple. Cats are companions. They fight off loneliness with just their quiet presence. And for millions, they're not just pets. They are, without a doubt, family. In fact, one survey found that a whopping 82% of owners feel like their pet is basically their own child. That sense of family, of connection, that's the emotional bedrock of the whole relationship. But the benefits? They don't stop there. They get way more physical, as we're about to see. Okay, so let's build on that. Because this bond we feel, it's not just in our heads. It has real, measurable, and honestly kind of surprising effects on our physical health. This goes way, way beyond the simple joy of a good cuddle.
And wow, this really spells it out. Interacting with a cat is basically like a natural chill pill. Research shows it lowers your blood pressure and drops your levels of cortisol. That's the body's main stress hormone. There was even a study where they had people do stressful tasks, and the cat owners in the room, they were calmer, they made fewer mistakes, and they physically recovered from the stress much faster than people who didn't have pets.
So just having them around is a huge deal. But get this, cats have this, well, it's kind of like a superpower, a tool they use that has a direct therapeutic effect on our bodies. And it's a sound we all know and love. Okay, this is where things get really, really cool. So a cat's purr vibrates at a frequency between 25 and 150 hertz. And believe it or not, scientific studies have suggested that vibrations in this exact range can actually promote bone density and help heal muscles and tendons. So next time your cat is curled up on you, purring their little heart out, they might actually be doing a bit of physical therapy on you. How wild is that?
So we know cats are good for our bodies. We've established that. But what about us? What does our preference for cats say about our own personalities? Well, science has some pretty specific ideas about what makes someone a cat person.
All right, so let's look at the big picture first. Study after study finds some key personality differences. People who prefer cats tend to be described as more unconventional, more imaginative, and a bit more self-contained. Dog people, on the other hand, they tend to score higher on things like loyalty and being extroverted. But we can get even more specific than that. And here's where we get into the nitty-gritty, using what psychologists call the Big Five personality framework. Cat people consistently score higher on openness, which basically means they're curious, creative, and they like new experiences. They also tend to score a bit higher on neuroticism, suggesting they might be more sensitive to stress. And compared to dog people, they score lower on extroversion, agreeableness, and conscientiousness. So this whole profile points to someone who's intellectually curious, pretty independent, and maybe values a quieter, less socially demanding companion.
And this, right here, is a huge piece of the puzzle. Cat people tend to score lower on something called social dominance orientation. All that means is they're less interested in hierarchies and being in control of things. They don't want a pet that's submissive. They actually prefer a companion that's more of an equal. They value a relationship that's built on mutual respect and just coexisting, not on dominance. So this whole idea of wanting an equal partner, that brings us right to the heart of it all. Attachment. Because this bond isn't just a simple preference. It's a deep, biological connection that actually mirrors some of the most profound relationships we have in our lives. Scientists actually use something called attachment theory to understand this bond. And this is the exact same framework that was originally developed to explain that powerful, unbreakable connection between babies and their parents. It's all about feeling safe, secure, and seen by another being. And it turns out
Cats are absolute masters at forming this kind of bond with us.
Okay, hold on, because this is where the data gets absolutely wild. Let's just look at this comparison. So, in scientific tests, about 65% of human babies form what's called a secure attachment with their caregiver. For dogs, that number's around 58%. But now look at cats. An incredible 66% of them form a secure bond with their owners. That is right on par with, and even a little bit higher than, human infants.
I mean, just look at this chart. It really drives the point home. About 2/3 of adult cats are securely attached to their people. A securely attached cat sees its owner as a source of safety and comfort in what can be a stressful world. This isn't just about food and a roof over their head. It is a deep, emotional connection that provides a genuine sense of security for the animal.
So what's actually going on inside our brains when all this bonding is happening? Well, a lot of it comes down to a hormone called oxytocin. People call it the love hormone, and it gets released when we pet, talk to, or even just make eye contact with our cats. It boosts feelings of trust and connection, and it just makes us feel happy and safe.
And at the same time that oxytocin is going up, something else is going down. Cortisol. Remember that one? The body's primary stress hormone. Spending time with your cat actively reduces your cortisol levels, which calms down your nervous system and lowers anxiety. They are literally, chemically, chilling us out.
So here's the bottom line. Your cat is basically your own personal furry little chemist, and it's rebalancing your brain for the better. They boost oxytocin and dopamine, which makes you feel love and pleasure. And they lower your cortisol while cranking up your serotonin, which reduces stress and stabilizes your mood. It's a powerful neurochemical cocktail delivered through purrs and headbutts.
Okay, so with all of this amazing science in our back pocket, it's time we finally tackle that tired old myth. All this evidence we've seen about attachment, personality, brain chemistry, it directly confronts that negative cultural stereotype of the crazy cat lady.
And this table just lays it all out, doesn't it? The myth says cat lovers are isolated and single, but the data shows over 60% are married or live with a partner. The myth says they're childless, but get this, families with kids are actually more likely to own cats. The myth tries to paint them as somehow marginalized, but cat owners are statistically more likely to have university degrees. And that whole crazy part? As we've seen, owning a cat is linked to better mental health outcomes, like lower stress. The science just blows the stereotype right out of the water.
You know, there's a quote from the research that it sums this all up so perfectly. Loving a cat isn't some sort of consolation prize. It is an active choice for a very specific kind of relationship, one where you can be deeply connected to another being while still respecting each other's autonomy and independence.
So it really makes you stop and think, doesn't it? Whether you have a cat, a dog, or any other kind of animal companion, that bond you share is a reflection of your own needs, your personality, and your unique way of connecting with the world around you. What does that special bond in your life say about you?